The clips you just saw are from Enridief's new short film, Animal, A Cruel Tale. I took the time a few days ago to interview him on his process and how he got so good in Procreate Dreams. He did share the whole animation with me beforehand, which was very nice. So we'll take a look at his process in this video, and you can see his short film premiere on his channel tomorrow. All right, so how are you doing today, Enrico?
Fine, thanks.
And
Repeat.
that is how I pronounce your name, right? Sorry.
Yes, my name is Enrico, and I'm from Italy, a little country in Europe.
All right, so what type of work do you do today, day to day? Are you like related? Do you work in a art related field at all?
Yeah, I'm a freelancer professional,
Mm-hmm.
working in the field of digital graphics. I have many clients around the world, and I often act as a creative director for them, taking care not only of the inspiration behind projects, but also for their execution. As you probably know, the field spans many different areas, from video editing to website creation, as well as simpler tasks like illustration or logo design for companies. We really have to be versatile.
Right. Okay, that sounds good. And I see that show through a lot of your work. What inspired you to create your YouTube channel and use Procreate Dreams?
Yeah, it actually started as a bit of game in the beginning. A few years ago, I uploaded some videos showing my illustration process for characters from the world of One Piece. I created a mashup between Luffy and Avis, you know, that went viral on Reddit. And at that point, it felt right to give space to the creative side of my work and share it with people.
Okay.
Then, almost 2 years ago, I started work seriously on my own projects, also inspired by other creators like you. I think that beyond the income you can make here, because of course nobody does things completely for free,
Right.
obviously. There's also a very active community that is genuinely interested in what you create. That's very rewarding, and it also helps build connection and eventually collaboration, like with you in this moment.
Right. So how did you get your start in animation? Was this your first program that you used, or have you been animating before even using Procreate Dreams?
My background is like a graphic design.
Right.
It's quite traditional. I started with Adobe Suite and approached animation using After Effects, Adobe Animate, etc. After that, I began working with more specialized software like Moho and Cartoon Animator, which I still use for some projects.
Okay.
But however, working with Procreate Dreams is fantastic for me because it allows me to express my full creative potential while trying to achieve the best possible results with just a few tools.
Okay. And is there another software that you use as like your main software for like more professional work outside of your creative projects?
Other software like Moho, like Cartoon Animator, Blender, for example,
Right.
uh, because more professional than Procreate Dreams. Procreate Dreams is thinking for student, for unprofessional people who want to be creative, but
Right.
for a professional job, I must to do something. I must to do very. I must to do. I must use professional tools. software.
Hmm. So, how did you start? Well, I guess you actually answered this one. You started effects and compositing in After Effects.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what age would you say you started at when you started animation? Did you start in college or?
I study in private courses
Hmm.
because in Italy this ambient is very little, and for studying I need um, to ask to private school,
Right.
not university, not college.
Okay. So I wanted to
Pay
ask you
for
a
that.
few. Oh, you paid for it, you said? Yeah. So I wanted to actually ask you a few questions about your film as well. So you just got off making it. How long were you making your film for, Animal: A Cruel Tale?
The film taking me time, much time, 4 months for the creation, because for first is a, a straight of technique for improve myself in Procreate Dreams.
Yeah. So you said you took a while to learn in Procreate Dreams, how long would you say it took you to learn how to use the program?
The program, I think, I learned immediately because is very simple to use for me because I use a program much more complex, obviously, and the
Right.
Procreate Dreams have a little tools, a few tools. So the trend curve to learn the Procreate Dreams is very little for me. But for a new who wants to learn Procreate Dreams, maybe is can be difficult. But for me, fortunately not.
Yeah. It's really good for beginners. But I see that
Yeah,
you're more experienced. What were your inspirations for the film?
I really like gangster movie.
Hmm.
And TV series like Peaky Blinders and some film, The Godfather. I like very a lot. But what inspired me the most was the style and the character I could give to the project. It has a bit of 20s of 19th century, the period called Roaring Twenties.
Hmm.
That period of economic growth, enthusiasm, and cultural change. It was also the era of prohibition with the underground clubs and gangsters, which adds a very strong atmosphere to the story, I think.
Right. Yeah, and I see that through all the gunplay and everything going on.
Yeah.
Um,
And I connect all this with a little of mystery.
yeah. Is there anything that, like any message you were trying to say with your animation, or is it just about action? Because I see that there's a
Uh,
little twist.
you mean the story of the project?
Right.
I think I think for the story is not too much complex for the animal project because um, the first really 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 the first thing I wanted to do for this project is unleash the power of Procreate Dreams to try to set a new level for the animation in Dreams, because I think with the frame by frame animation I can't arrive to that level because I need much time, uh, and for this I choose to use the rigging animation here in Dreams, but for the moment is very uh, um, not to the level like a software too much professional like Moho Character Animator or Adobe Animate, but I think is a challenge
Hmm.
for me for improve my abilities to create this in dreams. And I think the first thing is to create the process to arrive at the end of the project. And the story is not too much serious because is on the story of two brothers who want to the same woman. So
Yes.
not too complex, but for the I study much for the animation, not for the story.
Okay. So yeah, so you said you actually did rigging for a lot of this animation. So how did you like achieve this in Procreate Dreams? Because we know that it doesn't have its own rigging system in the program. So how did you like what method were you using to rig, basically?
The technique I used for the characters and for the animation, as you see, as you know, is rigging. Uh, for a much faster workflow compared to the traditional frame by frame animation. However, here on Dreams, there are many compromises. There isn't a real system designed for this, like a mesh or bone system, or even Moho's blend shapes, where you can combine multiple shapes for the mouth and eyes and facial expressions. There are also the angle of view for the bodies, which in Dreams you have to sort of invent. In the future, I hope the developers will at least add a mesh and bond system, like the ones we can find, for example, in ToneSquid. Because here on Dreams, we can use only the anchor point for create a system like bones, but not a real system bones, because we group the layer and create a fake rigging system.
Right. Did you use like performance mode a lot for this or keyframing only?
I use only twice because for some animation I use keyframe, for example, for the fighting, for not only, but even for the camera movements. But performance mode is very useful, for example, for camera movements, because I can create shake effect, very interesting. And performance mode, even for the characters in much time, because um, for some animation is interesting to use performance mode. For example, if I can I I make a movement very quickly, performance mode is very useful.
Okay. Great. So how long did it take you to storyboard your animation as well? And how did that
The
look?
sto- the storyboard for the animal project a few days because I say before the story is not too complex,
Right.
and for the story I take a little time for creating. The much more complex was obviously the animation,
Right.
not the drawing, because I reused a lot of drawings created on Procreate before, because not frame by frame animation. So we enough that's enough. For example, one draw for creating a lot of animation. For example, for the character.
Right. And you do frame by frame animation as well, not just rigging.
Yeah, but in the last year, I work a lot with rig animation for the
Okay,
client. For the client, because is much faster.
right. Um, do you mind me asking, are there any like works that you've done for clients that we could see, or is it all like things that you need to keep you can't speak too much about?
About the client.
Yeah.
Uh, the client, for me, my client, old client. I do for her for their um, a lot of video editing for marketing. So and my client don't need animation like this.
Okay, I see. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the hardest scene the scene that was like hardest for you to create in this animation?
The last fight scene was probably the most difficult because it's pure rigging between the two characters facing each other. It was a really interesting challenge, especially in getting the time right between the anticipation phase and the impact phases, and where the camera movements help to give weight and intensity to the fight. Because the fighting, the impact between two characters, with the help of camera movements, I can feel the weight of the fight.
Right. Okay. So that's good. And did that take you longer than the other scenes as well because of that?
Yeah, I think for this scene I work 2 weeks.
Okay. So I believe you
But
compose. Oh, go ahead.
no, no. But if I make this scene, but if I make this scene in frame by frame animation, I think 2 months.
Yeah. It always takes longer than you think when you do it frame by frame.
Yeah. Do you know? Do you
Oh,
know? Like
yeah,
even
yeah.
you is a good animator.
Yeah, thank you. So you compose your own music for the film, right?
Yeah, but
Okay.
with AI.
The world begins to fade.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I wasn't sure, but
Yeah,
so
yeah.
how did that actually work out? What program did you use to do
I
that?
use Suno. I think
Suno.
it's one of the best for production of AI music because you can create music with only with instrument and with without and with voice. So it's very
Yeah.
interesting with creating music, and I think is one of the best because maybe is one of the first on the mm, arrives on web.
Yeah. So I've actually never used Suno. How does that look like working in that program? Do you have to like record a reference for the program to use, or do you just give it instructions through text?
I give the instruction to text with the helps or of Gemini or
Yeah.
ChatGPT. Yeah,
Okay.
because I think for the for this job I need to work faster, and I
Yeah.
think the AI helps to very much.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and it came out really well because it sounds like studio production level music, if you know what I'm saying. So I really like the music in the film as well.
Thank you so much. If you
Okay.
think is made in AI, not bad.
Yeah, definitely not. Um, all right. So I guess there's just a few more questions. So I saw that you're one of the few YouTubers who I saw that stuck with Procreate Dreams after its first version. How are you feeling with its new update for 2.0?
There are some positive aspects and some negative ones, I think. On the positive side, for example, there is a flipbook, but especially the possibility to convert complex rig animations with many tracks directly into flipbook, which helps reduce the rendering load. If you have an iPad with a few memory, this is a very, very good choice, very good possibility.
Yeah.
The drawing tools are also a positive point. They still have two limitations, but they finally do their job, I think. And however, what is really missing is an infinite canvas with the ability to clearly see outside the scene during the compositing phase is, I think, is not too much positive. I understand the technical limitations the developers had to deal with this, but I hope this aspect can somehow be improved in the future. Because I can see under the screen, under the scene, when I stay in the, for example, performance mode or keyframe mode.
Yeah. I'm hoping they add a camera soon or something so you can don't have to group your whole animation to add camera movement. You know how it gets.
Yeah,
Um,
very big group.
yeah. So actually, how did you keep organized in the animation while you were doing it? Did you just have to group everything or did you create different files to create different scenes of your animation?
So for this project, the scenes are divided into one per one, but in very big group because there isn't an option for the camera at this
Hmm.
time at this moment in Dreams, and keeping inside the group, I can make camera movement for all layers inside it. So the important thing is for only seeing one group, one big group that I can make camera movements.
Yeah. Um, did the update
But the
actually?
file, sorry, but the file is the same for entire project,
Okay.
25 gigabyte.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah,
How much space do you have on your iPad?
very big,
Okay.
one
Yeah, my
terabyte.
1 terabyte. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's good. My Procreate Dreams files are always taking up my whole iPad space.
But I think for frame by frame animation, the file is still come very big
Yeah.
because
Did
there is a
the
lot of frame.
yeah. Did the update actually impact your workflow on this animation? Because you started on the first version of Procreate Dreams. Did the new update impact your workflow or you were fine with it?
Fortunately, no problem because the migration works well and the file is good well,
Okay,
from version one. No problem.
that's good. Great.
I,
Yeah, go ahead.
even you is a beta tester, right?
Yeah, I was a beta
Yeah,
tester, so I found
exactly.
that most things translated pretty well. It was definitely a different system because I think everything was on in tracks on when they updated
Mm,
because we used to animate on the main timeline on compose mode, but you just have to convert it to a flipbook and most things convert pretty well.
okay.
Yeah. Um so what would be your best personal tip for improving in animation for the viewers?
I think for improve a lot of practice for first. And if even if you are not 100% satisfied with your work, finish it as best as you can and show it to the world. Don't be afraid of other people's judgment. Instead, use criticism to your advantage, you improve and grow in your journey, I think.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. When you don't finish the
But
animation, people don't see the full vision.
yeah, practice a lot.
Yeah. So last one. So where can people find your content and what upcoming videos are you creating?
Yeah, I'm working on several new projects, obviously, but the most interesting one is about the story of Wandering Night. I'll be developing here on Procreate Dreams, trying to raise the level of animation even further, and also to some more specialized animation courses
Great.
for the future, obviously.
Well, it's been great having you, Enrico.
Thank you so
Um,
much.
no
Thank
problem.
you so much, Savon, for this collaboration and this interview.
I hope you all enjoyed watching this video. This was my first series of interviews for mobile creators. If you enjoyed, please hit a like and subscribe or comment. It really helps the algorithm so much. If you want to learn more about animation, you can check out my other videos on this channel. Thanks for watching to the end again.